Rivalry matchups, district showdowns, and state-ranked slugfests on deck in Week 5 of the Texas high school football season. These are the picks. Welcome into the Picks, your guide to the Texas high school football weekend. My name is Greg Tepper of Dave Campbell's Texas Football and TexasFootball.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're into Week 5 of the 2022 Texas high school football season, and things are starting to heat up a little bit, right? You can take a look at the Dave Campbell's Texas Football rankings and see that there's been some shifting, some new number ones out there in different classifications, and there's been some surprises to start the year. But now we're entering kind of a different season. We're entering district season where the games actually matter. So if you're 4-0, that's great. May not mean anything. If you're 0-4, terrible. May not mean anything. Everything is kind of wiped clean here as we enter district play. And there's big districts everywhere across the state that are starting this week. That's what makes Week 5 so much fun. Not to mention rivalry matchups. It's a whole thing here in Week 5. We're very excited about it. Huge games everywhere you look. We start in the Rio Grande Valley. 7 o'clock Thursday night at PSJA Stadium in Farr. It's the biggest game in the Rio Grande Valley yet this season as the Edinburgh Vela SaberCats take on the PSJA North Raiders. What are the keys to this matchup? Key number 1, the SaberCats' big plays. This is a high-flying Edinburgh Vela offense. My goodness, do they have weapons everywhere that you look. Dumas de Leon was fantastic last week. They've got guys like Jamal Pauly, who is capable of taking it to the house every single time. I love this receiver, Carlos Thomas. They have playmakers everywhere. Not to mention last week against McAllen Memorial, they scored 3 special teams touchdowns. So they can score pretty much anytime they touch the ball. They're going up against a very sturdy PSJA North defense led by guys like Steven Garza and Daniel Garcia. This is a defense that is very sound and they tackle extremely well. That's going to be critical in this one for against a team in Vela that if you give them an inch, they can take a mile. So can the PSJA North defense bottle up Vela, or will the SaberCats hit some home runs? Key number 2, the Raiders up front. This is a run-first PSJA North offense. That's not to say they can't throw, and in fact, I think they're a lot better throwing the ball this year than in past years, thanks in large part to participating in 7-on-7 in the offseason. But they want to keep the ball on the ground, and when you got an offensive line like they do, there's no reason why you shouldn't do that. They are massive up front, led by Dante Garcia and Joe Derek Vecchio. This offensive line averages 285 pounds up front. Yeah, they are big and they are mean, pushing people around. They're going up against an Edinburgh Vela defense that is a little bit smallish, on the smaller side, certainly smaller than PSJA North's offensive line, but they're very fast, led by Julian Guevara. So, can the speed of Edinburgh Vela's defense mitigate the size advantage that PSJA North is going to have up front? And key number 3, the big picture. We've been saying it all year long that this is a real opportunity for a team from the Rio Grande Valley to make a deep playoff run. And by a deep playoff run, I mean state semifinal. If you want to dream, maybe Arlington, right? It's there for the taking, specifically in 5A Division I Region 4. And both PSJA North and Edinburgh Vela have looked the part. They've looked like teams that can make that deep playoff run. Well, now they collide. And this is a huge game on a big stage, in a big spotlight, with kind of the whole state watching. Because I think people in 5A Division I want to know, are these teams for real? Are these teams actual bona fide, certified state championship contenders? Because it's been a while since we've had one from the Rio Grande Valley. There's a lot on the line here because the winner of this game, I think, starts to carry the flag for the entire Rio Grande Valley and an opportunity to make some history in the RGV. So, with everything on the line in that sense, who steps up? Who am I picking? I'm going with Edinburgh Vela. I think that this is the team that can make that deep run in the playoffs, thanks in large part to what has been a spectacular offense. This team has weapons everywhere. They are a home run hitting team. They're very explosive, got a great offensive line, and not to mention, I think their defense is very strong as well. Even though it's a little small on the smaller side, their defense flies around and makes plays. For me, PSJA North's path to victory here runs through junior quarterback Alejandro Aparicio. This is a guy who's a dual threat and needs to take care of the football whenever he's asked to throw the ball. You know, he's going to be a distributor back there. He has got to play his best game yet. In a lot of ways, this game comes down to how well Edinburgh Vela matches up front on the defensive side and whether or not PSJA North can contain the playmakers for Vela. In the end, I like Vela. I think that this offense is humming. I think the defense makes a couple of plays. I think that Edinburgh Vela gets an important district win. 7:30 p.m. Friday night at Chaparral Stadium in Austin. It's the Battle of the Lakes as Austin, Westlake, and Lake Travis renew their rivalry. And is it just me, or does this year's edition of the Battle of the Lakes have a little less buzz than past years? Part of it, I think, has to be the fact that Lake Travis has 2 losses, started the year 2-2, and they're unranked right now, which is really rare for a program like Lake Travis. Now, I think they've gotten their wheels back on the past couple of weeks. They've run the ball really well with Nico Hamilton. I think the backup quarterback, Caden Leone, has really stepped up in a nice way. But they're going up against this Westlake team that looks like a machine. After kind of a rough first half of the first game against Fort Bend Ridgepoint, they've figured everything out. The offensive line led by TJ Shanahan has been great. Jaden Greathouse is starting to cook there at the wide receiver position. They've got, of course, got that fantastic defense led by Colton Vasek. That, to me, is where the difference is. I think that the defensive front for Westlake is just going to be too much for Lake Travis to handle. The fun thing about this rivalry, though, is that whenever you feel like you have a beat on it, that's when it usually has the big upset. So it wouldn't be a surprise, historically, if Lake Travis were to beat Westlake, but it feels like the Chaparrals to lose in this one, especially at home. Give me Westlake. Let's go to the Panhandle, 7 o'clock Friday night at Demon Stadium in Dumas as the Bushland Falcons visit the Dumas Demons in an interesting 3A versus 4A clash. So Bushland is a team that we need to start paying attention to. There was a headline in the Amarillo Globe News this past week, I'm going to paraphrase here, that said, it's time to start thinking about how far Bushland can go. And that's exactly right. This team is 4-0 and rolling right now. Of course, they have that win over Canadian a couple of weeks ago. Quarterback Dawson Jaco is the real stinking deal. This kid is awesome. He's a lot of fun to watch. Their defense, especially up front, has been very strong. And now that Region 1 of 3A Division 1 feels perhaps more in doubt, right? Maybe Bushland can be the team to take advantage of that. But now they've got a big test, punching up 2 divisions to take on a very sound Dumas team. This is a team that has looked exceptional to start the year. They shook off an early loss to Lubbock Cooper, but since then they've been very strong. The defense has been pretty consistently strong, and they've got an individual playmaker in Emmanuel Ibanez who is capable of taking over this game. The other thing here is that I think that punching up a classification is tough, and playing at Dumas is not very easy. This is Demon Stadium, gets rocking on a Friday night. It's going to be a tough atmosphere for Bushland. I give Dumas the edge here, but I think we can learn a lot about both these squads from this matchup. And 7 o'clock Friday night at Wilkerson Sanders Stadium in Rockwall. It is a rivalry renewed as the Rockwall Yellow Jackets take on the Rockwall Heath Hawks. And do you remember how this game went last year? The 79-71 in double overtime ring a bell? Yeah, remember, this is a game that featured a Hail Mary on the final play of regulation to force overtime, and then Heath winning the game in double overtime. It was a spectacular finish there between 2 teams that do not care for one another out there in Rockwall County. These 2 teams that are kind of reinventing themselves. Rockwall is turning to Lake Bennett, their quarterback, who is kind of back from injury, now starting to roar a little bit. He's got a big-time wide receiver on the outside in Noble Johnson. Going up against a Heath team that's running the ball a little bit more with Malachi Tuesno. They also have a new quarterback in Caleb Hoover, who's been very strong. Look, this is going to be a shootout. These 2 teams know each other really well, and they dial up a lot here in this district opener specifically to win this game. I think it's going to be a lot of fun out there in Wilkerson Sanders Stadium. I give Rockwall the very slight edge because of a better defense. But those are far from the only big games in Week 5 of the Texas high school football season. Let's get to the lightning round. I like Burton over Fall City. Goliad gets by Vanderbilt Industrial. And in a battle of unbeatens in Austin, I like Dripping Springs over Bowie. I'm going with Wink over Water Valley. Cushing takes down Colmesneil. And give me Killeen Harker Heights over Pflugerville Weiss. I like Fort Bend Marshall over Port Neches Grove. Seminole gets by Pecos. And Stephenville stays perfect with a win over Wichita Falls Rider. I like Smithson Valley to take down New Braunfels Canyon. I think Brownfield beats Littlefield in a battle of surprise unbeatens. And give me Albany to bounce back with a win over Comanche. Newly ranked Granger beats Bruni. Newly ranked Brownwood beats Waco Connolly. And in a critical district showdown, I like El Campo over Navasota. I'm picking Wimberley to beat Lampasas. Wichita Falls beats Iowa Park. And College Station beats Leander. Big district showdowns here. I like Shiner to beat Ganado. Give me DeSoto just barely over Waxahachie. And Corpus Christi Miller beats unbeaten Corpus Christi Ray. Forney handles Lufkin. Give me Longview over Lancaster. And Texas High takes down Hallsville. I like Silsbee to beat West Orange Stark in a district opener. Give me Chilton to beat Deweyville. And El Paso Eastwood beats El Paso El Dorado. Spring Westfield beats rival Spring. I'm going with Bernie to take down Salado. And in one of the most surprising matchups of unbeatens in Week 5, I like Sabinal over Charlotte. I'm going with Klein Collins over Klein Oak. Give me Wellington to take down Panhandle. And it's Hell Week in Amarillo. I like Tascosa over Amarillo High. I'm going with Canyon to stay perfect with a win over Midland Greenwood. Give me Alice over La Feria. And I think Midland Legacy bounces back with a win over Converse Judson. In San Antonio, I like Alamo Heights over Burbank. Give me Shallowater to take down Idalou. And I like the Rohawks of Randolph over Marion. Abernathy gets by Muleshoe. Give me Lovejoy to take down Denison. And Bells takes down Callisburg. I'm going with Graham over Mineral Wells, and in our 6-man game of the week, I like Jayton over Silverton. And those are the picks. What am I wrong about? Which games did I leave out? Leave comments down below. Don't forget that subscribe button. Follow us on Twitter at DCTF. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Dave Campbells. Follow us on Instagram, instagram.com/Dave Campbells. And of course, see us at texasfootball.com. Thanks for watching. Enjoy Week 5 of the Texas high school football season. We'll see you.